Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, going to be going over some balance changes that I think desperately need to happen inside of Brawl Stars. Going to be going over every single brawler. I know this isn't normally how balance changes obviously work, because a lot of the nerfs and buffs indirectly impact a lot of the brawlers in the meta, so I'll just be going over what I think should change about the brawler. But obviously Supercell will only normally balance about 10 brawlers in a balance change. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump into the first one. Alright, first up is Nita. So Nita hasn't been good in the meta for a very long time now. She's just never in the competitive meta. On ladders, she's really bad. Only last season, I think I was the only person to even get Nita above 1100, so she needs a bit of love. I think this one's quite a simple one. I think the only change that needs to happen is that she needs to get 3 gadgets back. So before, she did used to have 3, but obviously now she has 2, so bringing her back to 3 might give us some love back in the meta. Okay, so next up is Frank. So I feel like Frank is a pretty balanced brawler at the moment. I feel like he's decent with Poco, so I feel like for this one with Frank, he probably needs a slight buff in his other star power, or nerf in his sponge star power. So obviously with Frank, most people, well, 99% of people use sponge instead of power grab, so maybe power grab needs a bit of love. Maybe his duration of the damage buff needs to be upped, or the actual damage buff needs to be upped, or vice versa, his sponge star power needs to be nerfed a little bit. So that's the only balance thing that I believe needs to happen with Frank. Okay, so Rosa actually is in a fairly decent position in the meta right now. She's not strong, she's not awful either, so I believe probably an indirect nerf is needed for her. So other brawlers around her probably just need a nerf. She's actually fallen out of the meta in terms of tanks. She's not one of the best tanks anymore. So maybe like a small HP nerf maybe, or an increased healing on a star power or something like that could definitely help her in the meta. But overall, she's pretty balanced. She just needs a small change. So next up is Mr. P. So Mr. P is one of the most broken brawlers in their meta right now. As everyone probably knows, he's definitely top 3 brawler. So I feel like with Mr. P, a lot of different things can change about him, but I would like to see this change in particular. So with his super, I feel like it needs to have like a health decay or an expiration date. So kind of like after like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, his portal then disappears. I feel like something like that needs to happen, just because he's the only brawler in the game, I believe, with that type of spawner kind of thing. So even in like another Supercell game, Clash Royale, spawners have always been a bit tedious. So I feel like there needs to be that kind of nerf for him. Again, there can be loads of different nerfs that can be implemented, like his shot reload speed. He's got really fast reload speed. He actually has a lot of damage. Could nerf his damage, could nerf his health. That was one of the main reasons why he's popped up in the meta again. Or they could do like an indirect buff and buff Jackie again, because Jackie used to run rampant on Mr. P, and since Jackie's had a huge nerf, and then Mr. P's just came to light again, so there's a lot to change that could potentially impact Mr. P. So this is going to be a big one, and I'll be interested to see where Supercell take in this one. Okay, next up is another top 3 brawler. So it's going to be Gale. Gale, again, before the introduction of Surge, was by far the best brawler in the game. Now I'd say he's comfortably at 2nd. So the thing with Gale, there's a lot of things broken about him. He's got a really fast recharge rate with his super, so he gets his super back near enough instantly after he's used it, so that definitely needs a huge nerf. He needs to not get his super back. His star power with his stun, I feel like that needs a bit of a nerf as well. He just gets stunned for too long of a time, and maybe his damage as well. He's got such a big amount of damage that he can input on the field. Literally 1.7k damage at like any range. It's kind of insane. He just shreds through people. And then again, another huge problem about him is his gadgets. So inside of Siege and Heist, it just literally makes the game broken, because you kind of need a Gale on your team if he's not banned in competitive, because it's just so important to get up the field after dying. Especially in Heist, you can just keep cycling deaths over and over again and just keep going in. So I feel like his gadget needs some sort of expiry date again. Well, expiry date, kind of health decay. So amount of usages, so maybe you're only allowed to use your launch pad once, which will actually make it much more balanced. Alright, so next up on the list is going to be 8-bit. It's probably a bottom 3 brawler inside of 3v3, but as everyone knows, inside of Showdown, he's just running rampant. All of the top people with trophies with 8-bit, it's going to be Showdown, just because of that star power, extra life. So I believe the first thing they need to do to balance 8-bit is just get rid of his extra life star power. Just like get rid of it. I feel like it's really annoying. It shouldn't be a thing, especially inside of Showdown. You shouldn't be able to come back alive once you die. And that's the main reason why he's so imbalanced, because I feel like Supercell are a bit scared to kind of touch him because of how good he is in Showdown. So at first they need to remove that, and then they need to change something in terms of his speed. or introduce a gadget that actually makes him a bit faster, something like that that's going to bring him to life, or again an indirect buff in the fact that they could bring out more maps, so a bit more longer range, and that's when he was more suited in the meta, was when there was a lot of longer range maps. So 8-bit, it definitely needs a big change, but my number one tip for making him better is just to remove that extra life star power and then upgrade him in some different categories. So next up is Sandy. So I believe with Sandy, again, it's just his super that's super annoying, pardon the pun, but his super just lasts for so long, 10 seconds, so I believe it definitely needed a change in that, maybe like 8 seconds, something like that, or either a small damage reduction. Other than that, Sandy's in a decent place in the meta. You don't actually see him too much inside a competitive or ladder at the moment, but he's still definitely decent, so that's the one change I would make with Sandy. Next up is Sprout. So Sprout, it's been a while for people to realize like how strong Sprout is, but Sprout is really good inside the meta right now, and that's because of his overgrowth star power. So the shield is just really good. I feel like it definitely needs a nerf, either that his gadget, because it gives him 2k HP back, but with the shield it actually gives him back more HP, so I believe they need to nerf either his shield, the amount of damage reduction it does, or his gadget, because obviously it gives him more value if he's using the gadget with that shield style power. So either one of them, I don't know the exact figures or whatnot, but that's definitely an avenue they need to take to nerf him. Okay, next up with the balancing is Ems. So as everyone surely knew, Ems was literally top 3 brawler for about 4 to 5 months. Really, she was super strong, and the main reason why she's really bad in the meta right now is because of her gadget. A gadget now has 3 uses, but it's just so bad, especially against tanks. It just doesn't push them back like she used to. So I believe she definitely needs a buff, because she's one of the worst brawlers in the meta right now, just because of that gadget. It just doesn't allow her to really do much, and a lot of different brawlers like Mr. P and the control brawlers kind of counter her. So I believe she definitely needs to change in her gadget again. Just a bit of an increase in the radius maybe might help her a lot, and just like an indirect nerf, indirect buff, so other brawlers around her just getting nerfed, and then she'll probably see some light in the meta again. So next up is Tick. So Tick, I feel like is a really balanced brawler at the moment, but if anything, he is a bit weak in other modes other than bouncy really. So I believe maybe give him a bit more HP so he's able to get into gunfights more often. But other than that, as I said, I feel like he's a really balanced brawler, so I'm not too sure what they should really do other than like a small health increase. So next up is Jean. So Jean has always been around the top 7 brawlers in the meta at the minute, but because of how dominant Mr. P is in the meta, Jean's not really seen it too much inside of ladder, because Mr. P is just running everywhere at the moment. Every single mode Mr. P is in, so that's why Jean's not seen as much playtime as before. But when Mr. P is not in play, Jean is a really good brawler, so I believe he doesn't really need any type of balancing. He's a really balanced brawler at the moment. Maybe increase how long it takes to get his super, because his super is super important. It only takes 3 big hits and a little one to get his super, so maybe increase the amount of time it takes to get his super, or just like indirect nerfs to other brawlers to then make him better in the meta again. So Bull has been a pretty bad brawler in the meta for a long time now, but recently he's seen a resurgence in the meta, and that's mainly due to his counterparts in Poco, in Brawl. So with Jackie and other tanks, Bull is actually really good inside of Brawl, just because of how tanky he is. And then inside of Heist, he's very good in Gale comps. He's the best tank in that regard, and even inside of competitive, I've seen a lot of Bull, even when Gale was banned. So Bull is definitely becoming better, but I still believe he needs a bit of a buff. He needs a bit of a health buff to help him back in the meta again, but I believe that's the only change that needs to happen. So next up on the list is Shelley, and I believe right now Shelley is probably the worst brawler inside of the meta. She's got such a slow reload speed, and her main job really in the meta is the counter tanks, and I just don't feel that Shelley's a good enough counter to tanks. Whenever I face a Shelley, especially with tanks, I don't really come up against too many problems unless it's like a Jean combined with her. I still don't really manage too many problems against a Shelley. That's mainly, as I said, due to her reload speed, but it's kind of hard to balance her because obviously she's a beginning brawler, and in the start of the meta a lot of people know how to play Shelley, so it can be a bit risky to buff her. But I believe maybe a change in her star powers, maybe her band-aid or a slow, something like that can change to get her some love in the meta again. But she's going to be the worst brawler in the game, and maybe increasing other attributes is hard, but in the high level competitive gameplay, maybe as I said, a change in a gadget or her star power is going to be increasing her viability in the meta again. Okay, so Poco, this is one of the pros' most hated brawlers, and it's mainly due to the fact that it brings out a very tanky meta. So especially when the most common bans inside of Brawl Stars at the moment in terms of competitive is Gale and Surge, so that's when Poco comps just run rampant because they absolutely dominate control comps, and that's mainly due to his gadget. and his star powers. So the other thing is you can't nerf it too much, else tanks just won't be as viable in the meta. So I believe he definitely does need a nerf in terms of his gadget. It just gives the whole team too much healing, 500 for I believe 5 seconds. That's a lot of healing, and it's like a passive healing, so even if you're taking damage, you're going to be healing. So I believe that definitely needs some sort of nerf, so maybe like a 300 per 5 seconds, or make it over a longer time or something like that. And again, his star power, I feel like his healing needs to decrease to like 600. I don't want him to completely get ruined inside of a meta, else, as I said, tanks won't be as good, but something small like that definitely needs to be adjusted because he's way too strong at this moment in time. So next up is El Primo. So Primo really hasn't been the best inside of meta, but he's definitely good in a tank of meta because as everyone surely knows by now, Primo basically counters every single tank inside of a game. So if it's a tank versus tank off and Primo's in that comp, you're going to be winning. But I believe he's pretty balanced. The other thing that probably needs to change is maybe his star powers again. I feel like his attack and health definitely a really balanced thing about him, and that's one of the things that needs to change. Maybe he gets faster, because that used to be really fast with his star power. I forgot what star power it's called. But it used to be really fast, and they've nerfed that a lot in the past, so maybe buffing that again might bring him back some viability, because his health Wago star power is definitely the better one for now. So next up is Daryl, and I felt like Daryl is a really bad place in the meta right now, and I don't even know why, to be honest. He's just not the best. He's not good in Brawl. He used to be good in Heist, that used to be his best mode, and again he used to be good in Siege about 3 months ago, until they changed him indirectly in Siege, where you can't actually tank for the Siege bot anymore. He used to be the best brawler inside of that mode, so I just feel like he's in a bad place in the meta right now. Maybe the change that needs to happen is he gets his shield for longer. There needs to be something that definitely changes about him, but I'm not 100% sure which the avenue they need to take. So next up is BB. So BB again used to be like a top 7 brawler for a very long time, but balance change after balance change, she's always receiving some type of nerf, whether it be health or something like that. So BB at the moment I feel like it's really balanced in the meta right now. I won't really change too much about her. Maybe the one change I would like to see is a bit of a change in her gadget. I feel like her gadget's a bit too strong. It's one of the best gadgets in the game because it's like 600 healing, and again it's a passive healing, so maybe tone that down a little bit and increase her health. And other than that, as I said, I feel like BB's attributes are really balanced at the moment. So next up is an interesting one, because Jackie, again before she got a huge nerf, used to be the best brawler inside of a game other than Sprout. But now Jackie's actually seen a resurgence in the meta again, because she used to be really bad, but her counterpart in Poco is the main reason why she's in the meta at the moment. Standalone Jackie is not good anymore. You used to be able to run Jackie with Ems and Sprout, and she used to be so good on her own, but now she's only usable with Poco. So I believe Poco does deserve a nerf, so that will make in turn Jackie weaker. So maybe she does need some slight adjustment, a bit of a buff, because on her own she's just really bad. So maybe increase her gadget speed, because I feel like it's a bit too slow. Maybe just increase it by literally like a percentage or something, or just a little tad of HP to actually bring her some viability back in the meta. So Colt is next up on the list, and he is a top 5 brawler at the moment, so he definitely needs some sort of nerf. So I believe maybe his power throw kind of star power needs to change, maybe make it a little bit slower. I don't know how they adjust that, or they need to nerf his damage, because at the minute he absolutely shreds people down that lane. I do enjoy Colt in the meta right now. He's a really fun brawler to play. I definitely don't get annoyed by him. He's definitely one of them brawlers where if I get killed by him, I don't really mind, because it's just a fun brawler to play. So I believe he just probably needs a nerf in his damage just a tiny bit. I don't really want to see Colt bad in the meta again. He was bad for a very long time. He used to be one of the worst brawlers inside of a game, so I feel just like a slight nerf in his damage will be sufficient enough. So Max is next up, and she's definitely a top 10 brawler at this moment in time. So with Max, I feel like there needs to be some sort of nerf with her. So I would say, in my opinion, maybe a nerf via health. I'm not really too sure why they actually gave her. I think they gave her additional damage or health. I feel like she needs to definitely be nerfed in that category, because at the minute she does shred at a long distance, and then again she's got 440 HP, so maybe taking that down to 4180 or something like that will actually make her worse in the meta. But she's definitely really good. She gets her speeds really quick, and a really good synergy brawlers. So next up is Penny. So Penny, I feel like, is one of the most balanced brawlers inside the game right now. She's not good in terms of the meta right now, so maybe indirect nerfs might be the avenue to take. But maybe if you're looking to balance her in some sort of way, maybe increase her damage slightly or her HP slightly, something like that could actually increase her viability. But as I said, I just feel like she's super balanced. Whenever I use her, she's really fun to play, but she's just not that good in the meta right now because there's a lot of stronger brawlers. So maybe again, actually buff her star power, the balls of fire one, or her last blast one, something like that. Something small might actually increase her viability. So next up for the balancing is a Dynamite. So Dynamite, again, been one of the worst brawlers in the game for a while now, but it's kind of hard to balance him because he's such a high skill cap brawler. It actually takes a lot of precision to hit his shots and aim them. So I believe the way to actually buff Dynamite is to probably change his gadget. His gadget is really bad right now. I believe there is a new gadget coming out. I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% on this one, but I believe it does like stun him or something. I feel like that would be a really good star power, a really good gadget to have with him. Because as I said, it's hard to hit your shots. So actually having that gadget will actually increase the amount of shots you hit. So okay, so next up is Tara, and Tara has received a huge buff in the last update. In terms of, I think she got damage and a health buff, if I'm not mistaken, but I still don't feel like she's really found her place in the meta at the minute. It's just so many different brawlers that are better than her, so maybe I'm not too 100% sure on what they could actually do on it, because I feel like the health and the damage is definitely at a good spot. Again, I feel like her star powers need probably adjusting. Maybe the heal pet needs more health so it survives for longer, and then the damage pet maybe needs more health again, or damage, something like that needs to change about her, because again, I just don't feel like she's that viable in the meta right now. But again, this could she could become really strong if they nerf Mr. P. That's one of the main reasons, again, why she's so weak. And again, with Surge and brawlers like that, just counter her too much. So again, an avenue I believe that needs to be taken is an indirect buff. Next up is Spike. So I feel like Spike is a really balanced brawler at this moment in time. I don't really actually think there's much that's actually disbalanced about him, because Curveball you can use on certain maps that need his extra range, and then Versatile is going to be the better star power. I feel like both star powers are definitely balanced. I feel like he's in a really good spot at the moment. He counters tanks really well. Maybe a small increase in the amount of damage inputs, but other than that, again, I just wouldn't touch the spikes. It's one of the brawlers inside of a game where I wouldn't actually balance them in any way. So next up in terms of balancing is Brock, and I believe at this moment in time, Brock is really balanced. But again, he hasn't actually got a high win rate at all in terms of ladder, and especially in the 500 to around 700 trophy range. And that's due to the fact he's a high skill cap brawler, and they still nerfed him the other updates. So I believe I'd still like his health to actually go back to his original state. I believe it was nerfed by, I think, 280 or something like that. If he gets back to this change, then he won't be countered by Sandy, Carl, and other brawlers like that. Okay, so next up is Jessie, and Jessie isn't good in competitive at all, but in terms of low trophy range, she's really good, so it's going to be hard to balance Jessie. So I believe she probably needs like a reload speed buff or something like that, or a star power. Something needs to change. I'm not 100% sure, because it's going to be a hard task. As a lot of people know, Jessie's used a lot in low ladder. She's got a high usage rate, a high win rate, so again, I feel like this one's going to be left to Supercell to see how they can actually buff Jessie and make it fair in both trophy ranges. So Barley, this one's simple. Barley is probably the most balanced brawler in the game. I don't feel like anything needs to change about Barley whatsoever. Maybe the only thing that needs to change is his gadget duration. It's probably a bit long. 4 seconds is a long time, so maybe change it to 3. Other than that, Barley is like a perfect brawler at the moment. Next up is Leon, and Leon hasn't been good in the meta for a very long time now, and he's been getting buffs every single balance change, and he's still not been making much of an impact. So I believe we need to change something with his star power. So in terms of his invisibility, we need to make that last for longer, because that was one of the main reasons why he was strong in the meta before and when he was first released, and they've nerfed that heavily since. So I believe they definitely need to make a change in that respect. Crow is next up, and Crow actually is a really hard brawler to balance, because before he used to be really strong a couple of years ago. It used to be one of the most annoying brawlers in the game, because it stops you from healing. It's a really toxic brawler, and it's going to be hard to balance him. So I feel like they should definitely buff him with his gadget. With his gadget, it actually makes him really good. He's got 2 shields, and it actually makes him a really tanky brawler, because obviously he's a really squishy brawler, and it's one of the main reasons why he can't really ever be in the meta at this moment in time, because it's too squishy. But when he's got that gadget and when he jumps in, it's when he's at his best. So I believe they probably need to give him his 3 gadgets back, and if that's too strong, if they think that's too strong, then maybe reduce his shield reduction, but it definitely needs 3 gadgets back for that shield gadget. Pam in this moment in time is a really strong brawler in the meta, and a really underrated brawler. Definitely I would say a top 10 brawler. She's so strong, she's got a really good damage, she's got a good reload speed, she's really tanky, so I feel like she definitely needs a nerf. And with this respect, I feel like they need to nerf her reload speed. So she's got really fast reload speed, you can just deal so much damage at a range, and close range as well, so this is definitely an aspect that need to change. Okay, so next up is Bo, and Bo, I feel like it's a pretty simple way to balance him. His new gadget is completely broken in this time. You can just activate his gadget instantly and just get a free kill every single time, and basically it's like a permanent sprout wall. You just can't go where his mines are in this moment in time, so I feel like there needs to be like some sort of delay, maybe a 0.1 of a second. I don't know what time of delay, but definitely needs to be some sort of delay on that gadget because it's completely broken at the moment. But other than that, if you remove that gadget, he's one of the most balanced brawlers in the game at this moment in time. Next up is Piper, and Piper I said was around midway in the meta a couple of weeks ago, and boy was I wrong. Piper is one of the worst brawlers in the meta in this current time. I feel like she definitely needs a big change, or other brawlers around her need nerfing, just because I just don't feel like she's good. It's a really tank heavy meta at the minute. She's got really low reload speed, and she just can't compete, especially with her new gadgets. She's even more vulnerable to tanks and aggressive players, because that gadget is so good, but then again it actually indirectly nerfs her, because again really aggressive brawlers can just go into her face because they know when you're not using that gadget. So I feel like with Piper, I won't change too much because her attributes overall are pretty balanced. It's just that other brawlers in the meta are just way too strong for her. So next up is the best brawler in the game, and this is the most decisive nerf. There's a lot of things that Supercell can actually nerf with Surge, and it'll be interesting to see where they actually go with it. So firstly, I believe going through the tiers, so from 1, 2 and 3 to the max 1, there definitely needs some sort of progression in the term that all of them, it only takes 3 big shots to actually get a super and to upgrade. So I feel like after every upgrade it should maybe take like 5 shots to go with the next tier, and then 7 shots to get to the final tier, because once he gets to the 3rd tier, there's near enough no stopping Surge. He's just so broken. Again, one of the main reasons why he's so broken as well, he's actually really bad without his split stop power. You definitely need that to push with him, and it just makes it so easy to hit shots, so maybe they need to nerf that as well. Again, his gadget is completely broken. You can teleport through walls. It's a really large distance. I feel like they probably only need 2 teleports as well. Again, there's just so many different avenues you can take with Surge and nerfing him, and it'll be interesting to see which one Supercell take. Next up is Nani. So Nani is quite hard a brawler to balance, because I believe she's really high skill caps, because it's still kind of hard to hit the shot. So I believe with this one, I feel like the only change that needs to happen is with the bow totem. You just get your supers so easily with that combination. I feel like just in that scenario that Nani needs to take maybe like 30 seconds to build up a super, because I feel like that strategy's a bit broken. But other than that, I feel like Nani's a really good spot in the meta right now. So next up is Rico, and he's probably my favorite brawler to play. He's so fun to play, but he's just not the best in the meta at the moment. In terms of stats, he's pretty balanced, but everyone around him is just much better. I feel like he needs a bit more love, maybe a bit more damage, maybe a bit more range, something like that. Something definitely needs to change for him, because he's not been strong in the meta for a very long time now. So I'm not too sure what we should go for, but I'll probably go for the range or something like that, so he can actually compete more. Maybe make his bounces actually bounce for an even further distance, something like that, that can actually make him more viable in the meta. So next up is Colt. And Colt really hasn't been good in meta for a while. He used to actually be fairly decent in Heist, but ever since Spike, people got better usage out of Spike. He's not been very good, so he's probably one of the worst brawlers in the meta in this moment in time. You can buff him in many different categories, in his range and his damage, maybe change his star power a little bit, maybe give him more additional speed, or a second gadget. I know his first gadget is actually really good. It reloads a full 2 clips, but something needs to change about him. He's just not very good. You've got like Max, his counterpart, that's much better than him. Just got brawlers all around that are just so much better than him at this moment. Okay guys, it's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. That's my take on a lot of balancing, but again, not every single brawler can get buffed or nerfed, because that would just create a huge disbalance in the meta. So this is just my take on every single brawler, what I believe should happen. But again, Supercell probably only nerf or buff around 10 brawlers, so definitely take this with a pinch of salt. This is just what I think of a pro player, very experienced on ladder and competitive, so I feel like I've got a good take on this. But that's going to be the end of today's video. Let me know if you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.